And just like that, we're going to go into a BP Deepwater spill of 2010, a case study, which actually uses alkanophoric porcumensis, which is why I wanted to highlight that in the last slide. So if you don't know what the BP Deepwater Horizon spill is, yeah, it involved this rig. It's an oil rig. Digs up oil from deep underwater. So it's an industrial disaster that began on April 20th, 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico on the BP-operated Macondo prospect. It involves a high-pressure methane gas from the well, expanded into the marine riser and rose into the drilling rig, where it actually ignited, exploded, and it engulfed the platform. So you can see the well part right here in orange, where the oil comes up, and as I said, the high pressure methane gas from the well expanded into the marine up and rose into the drilling rig. And unfortunately, it ignited and exploded and engulfed the platform. Here's another image. So, following the incident, there are some discrepancies um, in terms of statistics, but here's some information of kind of look at both sides. So it is believed that the oil flowed for 87 days. BP originally estimated a flow rate of 1,000 to 5,000 barrels per day, but the flow rate technical group, a separate group, estimated that the initial flow rate was actually 62,000 barrels per day. The total estimated volume of leaked oil is approximated to be about 4.9 million barrels. But BP challenged the higher figure, saying that the government overestimated the volume. Um, but on the other hand, in 2013, internal emails released by BP employee actually uh, estimates um, a similar uh, leaked oil volume to that of FRTG, Flow Rate Technical Group, and actually shared the data with their supervisors. But BP continued to deny this and continued on with their lower number. So after several failed efforts to contain the flow, the well was declared sealed on September 19th, 2010. But unfortunately, reports in early 2012 indicated that the well site was actually still leaking. And here's an image of the leaked oil on the ocean. The impacts of the BP Deepwater spill, I wanted to focus on marine life, the cleanup crew, and the ecosystem. So, environmental impacts, the ecosystem. Given that the oil spill was in the Gulf of Mexico, the oil actually washed up on the shore, and this had a major impact on plants, the marine life, and the overall ecosystem. Here's an image of some workers, cleanup crew workers, actually scooping up the contaminated area and discarding it into what looks like plastic bags. And it's very important to note that uh, these cleanup crew workers aren't wearing any form of some kind of a respiratory protection, such as a mask. That's very crucial because um, the cleanup crew was very heavily affected. In a 2012 survey of the health effects on the spill on cleanup workers, um, the workers reported eye, nose, and throat irritation, respiratory problems, blood and urine, vomit, rectal bleeding, seizures, nausea, violent vomiting episodes that last for hours. And just there's just so many different things that these cleanup crew workers were affected, um, and it's very unfortunate, especially the lasting effect. Um, Developmental disorders, birth defects, neurological disorders, um, and these are only just some of the many ways the cleanup crew was affected. And then given that again, uh, this takes place in the Gulf of Mexico, there's obviously a lot of marine life. So this had an enormous impact on marine organisms, given that the spill area hosts over 8,000 species. Uh, and the release of an outcome of the BPD water spill was that there was a lot of methane um, in the area, which actually can suffocate marine life. And it creates these areas known as dead zones, where oxygen is depleted due to the abundance of methane. And evidently, there was a lot of mutated animals, dead animals washed up on shore, and animals with birth defects. Of course, they're just absolutely covered in oil. Here are just two examples. So now, how did they clean up all this oil? Well, they used containment booms, Corexit Dispersant, and oil-eating microbes. So containment booms are these very long barriers. For example, we used, or they used in the BP Deepwater spill, 4,200,000 foot long barrier, which was used to contain all the oil. And the purpose of this was to protect the marshes, mangroves, and shrimp, crab, oyster ranches, or other ecologically sensitive areas that are near the shore. So here you can see these two lines, and these are the containment booms that are kind of trying to block out the oil from these ecologically sensitive areas by the shore. And a very important topic I want to discuss is Corexit Oil Dispersant. Um, it was liquid used primarily to clean the oil in the ocean, and it breaks oil into small droplets which can be readily degraded with microbes. And in this case, they used 1.84 million gallons of this Corexit Oil Dispersant. So how it works is that you can see up here. This is a kind of a diagram. You look from top to bottom. You have these green Corexit Oil Dispersant, um, and what it does is that it gets into the oil and it traps these oils into like oil droplets, which sink underwater, uh, and can be easily biodegraded, or at least a lot more easily than when the oil is just floating on the surface. And here we have a plane releasing Corexit oil dispersant into the water. And then oil-eating microbes. Here we go. Genetically modified Alcanivorax porcubensis was the microbe of choice. It's a bacteria, and it utilizes aerobic metabolization with oxidation. Here's the image. On the left, we have oil, and then with the addition of Alcanivorax porcubensis, it kind of clumps it all together. And then, as you can see, the water surrounding it looks a lot more cleaner. And unfortunately, there's also a negative impact of Corexit dispersant. Some scientists argue whether the use of Corexit dispersant and microbes was actually successful. Some say that without it, the situation would have been worse, while others argue that the effects are exaggerated. Now, Corexit dispersant is known to cause health effects such as central nervous system effects, nausea, vomiting, anesthetic or narcotic effects, and injury to red blood cells, hemolysis, and kidney or the liver, and cancer. And then there's also negative impacts on the marine life. Because these oil droplets engulf, or the Corexit dispersant engulfs the oil, and forms oil droplets. These oil droplets sink underwater due to their density. And what happens is that these marine life underneath the water actually um, might eat or consume these oil droplets, um, and obviously can be very harmful to their health. Additionally, oil droplets with the Corexit dispersant, if they hit a shore, they are even more difficult to biodegrade than just regular oil on the shore. So, what really is the best option then? Well, we kind of have to consider both sides of the argument. Um, and again, as I said earlier, um, there are so many different factors that we have to take in consideration. Um, and the use of microbes is generally accepted as the most effective way to clean oil spills. Um, but there is a lot of controversy surrounding the topic.